Alright, this is a new section here. This is now 1940s to 1979 domestic. Now there's some other things included as well. So, 1940s, if you remember just briefly, the major thing up until 1945 is World War II. So I'm really going to kind of pick up there. I'm really going to focus on civil rights and domestic issues and things like that. I really won't touch on the Cold War, but briefly, we have to remember that in the 1940s, what did we have going on with the Cold War? We had the Truman Doctrine, we had containment, um, we had the Greece and Turkey issue, we had the Marshall Plan, and we had ultimately had the formation of NATO. So all of that, you need to keep that on the back burner and understand it's happening simultaneously with what I'm talking about here. This is simply domestically here in the United States, okay? First off, I mentioned in World War II, but the GI Bill was massive in helping servicemen readjust to what is called civilian life, not having to kill, but going to college and everything that comes with it, starting a family, buying a house, etc. Now, for this reason, Rosie the Riveter, if you remember that iconic woman, we can do it, is now going to be called Rosie the Homemaker. Women are expected to abandon their newfound work ethic and return to the home and be this homemaker. Now, we'll look at this in class because this is interesting. In the 1950s, Good Housekeeping Monthly put out a Good Wife's Guide. By the standards today, this would not fly, and we'll kind of see why. So this old generation, they do go back, and they do that. Also, the 1940 baby boomers, as they are called, is the largest baby boom in U.S. history. They are now in their 60s. They were the hippies in the 1960s. So there's a lot of things going on with that. Now, something has to be said about why so many babies are being able to live longer, okay? And that is, we now have some type of manual. Dr. Benjamin Spock mass-produced a book called Baby and Child Care, and a lot of kind of maybe common sense, but I'll tell you, the first time I can remember my daughter and my son both being born. Now my son, I felt a little more ease because my daughter was 5 at the time, and I understand this. However, when my daughter was born, and I first held my little girl, I looked and I said, oh my goodness, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, she could get very, very hurt. And so it really kind of came in me, I want to protect her, I want to do things the correct way. Dr. Benjamin Spock kind of gave a lot of people a lot of hope in that the fact he mass-produced this book. A second doctor, Dr. Jonas Salk, is going to give us an inocular vaccine, meaning by injection, for polio. And we're going to try to eradicate polio. However, polio does persist. You can still catch it. The vaccine's not 100%. And there's actually a group of people in the United States we call anti-vaxxers who actually believe that vaccines cause autism and refuse to use them. And so a lot of these old diseases we think were gone, measles and mumps and rubella and polio, are actually making a return to the United States due to these people. Me personally, I'm going to say give my child the vaccine, and if they get autism, it's not going to make me love them any less. I'd much rather have them live. But people are free to make up their decisions in this country, right? That's what we're built on. Now, the 1940s and also 1950s, we call it the affluent society. Now, affluency is wealth. It is abundant, it is plentiful, it is almost free-flowing. Now, this is maybe a little bit misleading. Not everyone in the 1940s and 1950s had money, but generally it was a little bit more well-off. People were able to buy things, and we're going to see as these videos in the 1940s continue. So, affluency. Also in the 1940s, we get a painter who I've already mentioned. He is the original composer of Rosie Riveter. His name is Norman Rockwell. There was a Saturday newspaper that was called the Saturday Evening Post, and he made tons of paintings for these particular magazines. And what he did is he showed us stereotypical 1940s lives. There's ones of teenagers dating. There's ones of just all across the spectrum. And he did this for many, many years. And that kind of gave a glimpse into what typical American society was like. So that was the first video in the 1940s. You do have two more here. This is kind of going back into the mode here. Cold War was kind of the exception, so you do have 3 videos again. So this is number 1. Make sure you look at both of the next ones, okay?